Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dennis Stockman, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Young. We warmly welcome the family of Second Lieutenant Albert George Kilpatrick, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. We also welcome the members of 37 Army Cadet Unit from Albury-Wodonga, Victoria, 226 Army Cadet Unit from Normanhurst, New South Wales, 321 Squadron, Australian Air Force Cadets from the City of Newcastle, New South Wales, and 200 Army Cadet Unit from the Southwest Slopes of New South Wales. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Albert George Kilpatrick. Albert Kilpatrick was born in 1890, the eldest son of 11 children of George and Amelia Kilpatrick of Eastwood, near Walsha, in the New South Wales Northern Tablelands. Known to his family and friends as Bert, he attended Walsha Public School and clerical school at the Postmaster General's Department, before embarking on a career as a postmaster and telegraphist. Initially stationed at the Walsha Post Office, in the years before the war, he worked as a relieving postmaster at the Gosford office. Albert Kilpatrick enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Holsworthy, near Sydney, in September 1915. Owing to his qualifications, he applied for and was granted a commission and sailed for England as a second lieutenant with a reinforcement group for the 33rd Battalion in October 1916. Kilpatrick spent several months in the training camps on the Salisbury Plain near Wiltshire, attending a course of instruction and qualifying as a bomb-throwing instructor. During the following months, he was based at the 9th Training Battalion at Weymouth, where he taught fresh reinforcements from Australia how to throw grenades before they proceeded to fight on the Western Front. After several weeks in hospital recovering from a mild case of syphilis, Bert returned to his training unit and then sailed for the fighting on the Western Front in August 1917. By the time Bert arrived in France, the 33rd Battalion was recovering from heavy fighting at Mazines in Belgium. It was also preparing to take part in a major British offensive that sought to break out of the so-called Ypres salient and push northwards in an effort to remove the Germans from the Belgian coastline. Fighting in what became known as the Third Battle of Ypres, the Australians fought a series of costly but successful actions at Menenbrode, Polygon Wood and Broodzeander. As they advanced towards Passchendaele, each attack was supported by massive amounts of artillery that permitted the infantry to advance towards their objective behind the relative protection of a creeping barrage. The 33rd Battalion took part in the attack that followed. The ill-fated assault on Passchendaele village. Rain had turned the low-lying area torn up by shell fire into a quagmire, which made it difficult for the infantry to advance on their objective. Owing to the boggy conditions, the guns could not be brought up to provide the assaulting waves with the protection they had on previous occasions. Stepping off at 0 hour on the morning of the 12th of October, the 33rd Battalion advanced as far as Augustus Wood, near the present-day site of Tyncott Cemetery, where their attack ultimately faltered in the face of fierce German resistance. Accurate artillery and withering machine gun fire from German strong points inflicted a heavy toll on the 33rd Battalion. Within less than 24 hours of fighting, the battalion had suffered over 240 men killed, missing and wounded. Among the dead was Albert Kilpatrick. Aged 27 at the time of his death, his body was never recovered from the Passchendaele battlefield. Today, his name appears on the Menengate Memorial alongside 6,187 Australians who were killed in Belgium and have no known grave. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Remembrance. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Second Lieutenant Albert George Kilpatrick, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.